Hello and welcome to the first FinTech podcast of 2020 with Business News Wales and Recruit 1-to-1. Today we're joined by Gareth Morgan, COO of Delio, Rhys David, CEO of Credas, and Andrew Brockway, CTO of Confused.com. One thing they all have in common is that they or their companies were all winners at the first FinTech Awards Wales. So welcome to you all today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we start, I suppose, maybe you could give our listeners a bit of a background of, obviously they've got your titles and your jobs, but who are you and what do you actually do? Gareth.
Of course, Matt. Delio is a technology provider to financial organizations. We operate in the private markets space, so whether it's shares or property, and we provide technology to people like Coutts and Barclays to show investment opportunities to their investors. It's entirely white labeled and own branded, so you don't see the Delio name, but we have strong partnerships with those parties.
Okay, and Rhys?
Yes, we combine biometric technology to automate due diligence processes. We also power other platforms in this world. So some of the sectors we cover: estate agency, legal, financial services, accountancy. So at any point in the world that someone needs to be verified for their identity, then that's what we tend to do.
Great, and it's nice to have you with us because you're usually on Sky News being interviewed. So
I know,
it's a real privilege.
I put a gap in my diary for this, Matt.
Thank you. Well, we are appreciating that. And Andrew, I suppose we all know Confused, but maybe tell us a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So Confused.com, we created the price comparison category back in 2002. We operate in the financial services and insurance space. And I guess our mission is that we see our customers as David and the financial services industry as Goliath. So we're helping the customer cut through the confusion and the hype, put the best deals in front of them. So we're kind of like the slingshot with the tool, if you like. And my role really is to look after a great technology team and try and drive that forward for the business and the customer.
Fantastic. So great to have you with us. As you said, you're all winners at the first awards. Maybe you could just tell us, I suppose, what category it was you won. Rhys, what was it that Credas won?
Yeah, so we won the best fintech technology business, which was really pleasing for us. Massively so for the team. Certainly on a newer business, it's hard to succeed and even get to a trading position. So to win that category against some strong competition was really validating for the team and myself to demonstrate that what we're doing, our strategy, our execution, was on the right track.
Oh, fantastic. And Andy, a little bit of a different one for you, really.
Yeah, I was honoured to win the Chief Technology Officer of the Year award for the fintech industry in Wales. Hugely honoured to win that, and it's really a reflection of the team, to be honest. I can't take credit for everything that we do because it's obviously not a one-man thing. So yeah, very, very pleased with that.
And you were nominated as well, so you didn't actually apply.
That's correct. So I was told I was being nominated by my CEO, Louise. Thank you, Louise, so much. And she collated some feedback about what we've been up to the last year or so as part of the entry. So very, very happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair to Louise, she's not here, but she is a real great supporter of all her teams. She's really passionate about her employees, isn't she?
Oh, completely. I mean, Louise is a force of nature, and she completely understands technology. She understands how it can help customers. She is the one that articulates our mission so eloquently with the David and Goliath comparison or metaphor that I just sort of alluded to. And she's a huge proponent for learning and development, so she sees a value in training and upskilling and giving people the opportunity to kind of better themselves in order to help the customer and the business, really.
Yeah. I mean, actually, staying on that subject about being nominated, I mean, if we're honest, a lot of tech people are quite humble or like to be maybe in the back in a sense. How did you feel when you found out you'd been nominated and then shortlisted?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't nominate myself at all. So there is a stereotypical personality trait, right, within tech, which I tend to agree with. We are quite reticent in putting ourselves forward and out there, I think. We're not very good at PRing ourselves. I was a surprised to be nominated. That was kudos in and of itself, that Louise and the team felt that they could. But to be shortlisted and then actually win it was just really, it's a bit of a career high, to be honest.
Yeah, that's nice, and that's great. Louise recognising that as well, and for you with the team. What about you, Gareth, and with Delio?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. We won the Scale Up of the Year, which was fantastic for us, given we've still got a number of people who are involved right from the first day of the operation. And I think we can all empathise to say, whilst being in a startup or a scale-up is very rewarding, it can be equally challenging as well. And for those that have seen that journey, it was tremendously motivational to see, not only from a corporate perspective that of being recognised, but equally so in a very individual perspective, that their contributions have been appreciated, and it's taken the company to where it's got to now.
Oh, that's really great to hear, and I'm sure they're pleased to hear that as well. So I suppose a logical question then for Rhys and Gareth is, why did you apply for the FinTech Awards Wales?
Matt, look, there's obviously the marketing element of it, the prominence and the brand recognition within Wales. Delio was born and has grown in Wales, so being a Welsh company is something that we're tremendously proud of. It gives the opportunity of raising awareness for what we do, not only for our stakeholders, but also potential employees. So that's extremely valuable. But also, as I say, in terms of the existing staff as well, I think your earlier comments in terms of maybe tech staff don't necessarily put themselves out greatly within the marketplace from a visibility perspective. So to see that the sector is being championed and that individuals can prosper within the sector is extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gareth covered all the points I wanted to cover off there, but very, very similar. Credas was born in Wales, even though we're part of a larger group headquartered out in England. 90% of our clients are outside of Wales. And we wanted to raise brand awareness of Credas, use it from a marketing angle, of course, but to also put us on the map a little bit. There's a huge amount of excitement or exciting things going on within Wales from a technology standpoint and innovation, and we need to do a better job of putting that on the map, and I thought that would help that cause.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So when we think about the awards, and especially winning them, has it had any impact both, I suppose, within the business or outside of the business?
Yeah, it's had a tremendous impact, actually, Matt, one that we didn't necessarily anticipate beforehand. It came at a really important juncture for us, whereby we'd just taken some funding and were keen to grow the business, and we've doubled our staffing, and there's been a tremendous number of those people who we've had a conversation with that said the first we had heard of you was coming through this. So that's been invaluable to us, but not only for new people, but equally existing people as well. People that have really progressed within the company and demonstrated that it's not always acquiring new people. We can grow and breed people internally in that way.
Oh, that's good. And Rhys?
Yeah, both internal and external benefits. So it's very validating for the team that we're acknowledged outside of our own sort of company, that we're on the right track. But to our shareholders as well, the backers of the business, that what we're doing is having traction and working. And it gives you credibility. Just putting it on your email signature, just using it in PR and showing you're the best in category, it's worth something. And that's created opportunities for us, commercial and non-commercial. And it's about positioning ourselves to jump on that and leverage it. So we're very pleased with the impact it's had.
That's good to hear. And Andy, obviously it's slightly different because an individual, but has it had an impact? I mean, you mentioned it's been a career highlight. I mean, I suppose, how many years have you been at Confused?
Oh, since day one. So that's I think this is the 18th year now. So, I mean, it's we talked, the words validated and kind of, affirmation, I guess, of our efforts. So I'm an ex-developer. I started off as a developer, writing software. And I think it's a good story to replay back to the organization in terms of, look, the tech team members this is something you can do. It's not just a kind of a one-off thing. I think it helps with our employer branding as well. Like you mentioned about the external perception of the organisation. I think it's really important. It gives a bit of kudos and authenticity. So yeah, there's a number of kind of facets to it, I think.
And knighthood is next, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, well, naturally. I mean, I'll be disappointed.
It's the next logical step, surely.
Well, after that, who knows?
Let's start the campaign. Brockway for Sir.
Okay, I'm happy with that. That's fine.
Excellent. So think of the awards. I mean, for me, quite often, we all go to different awards. Sometimes we can really enjoy them. Maybe sometimes we can sort of a little bit of dread. How did you find the actual FinTech Awards Wales? It was the first one. Did it meet expectations, exceed? Were you, how did you feel? I mean, Rhys?
Very enjoyable. Taking the winning aside, it was just a really good room to network. It was very informal, very friendly. It wasn't a black tie, which is really important for me. I don't enjoy those events. I find it becomes a bit too stuffy. The speaker was a stroke of genius who impersonated various politicians. That was excellent. It's just a very well run event and very enjoyable. Great to network with local businesses to see what's going on. So I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think in terms of the atmosphere that evening, thinking that it was more than just a group of companies coming together, it was a real community of people to think how the overall sector can progress in Wales. And the informality was excellent in facilitating that. I think in terms of the sector, it's characterised by agility, characterised by being different, and I think that resembled how the evening went.
Yeah, well said, both of you. I think the informality was really good. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't completely informal. There was an element of kind of professionalism there, but there was a good energy in the room. I thought it was pitched really well to tech types. My team really enjoyed it. And that's what counts for me, really. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that was always the goal. When we think then, you've all mentioned a bit more about the community. How important do you think it is, as a fintech community in Wales to have that community, to build it, to collaborate and work together?
I think this is the opportunity now, right? So we were talking before we came onto the podcast around the kind of fragmented nature of fintech in Wales, and I think that the efforts of FinTech Wales to kind of put a bit of structure into that and to help focus our efforts and, and try and yield something for the greater good, I think is a really, really good thing. And it feels like we're just at the start of that. And there's a huge amount of potential there.
Yeah, I'd agree. And there's work to be done, as we know, but we've made a promising start. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Wales. There's a lot of investment coming in, not just financially, I mean relocation, which brings people to Wales, so it benefits the economy. It would be good to see the conveyor belt of talent coming out of university straight into jobs in Wales, so they don't go to outside of Wales. And there's a lot of good things happening here. And we've got a small nation mindset, which is a good and bad thing. We are humble by nature, but also massively competitive, as we can see on the sporting fields. I'd like to see us shout a bit more, but not just shout ourselves. Other people can shout on our behalf. There's a huge amount of success happening. It's the origins or the genesis of price comparison. There's a lot of other good things happening, and I'd like to see that just shouted about a bit more. And in a collaboration between businesses, I've benefited personally, and my business have, from just being part of FinTech in terms of being able to speak to Andrew, Gareth, Lee, Gokos. A lot of experience there you can tap into. You're not the first to have ever tried to set up a business, and you're not alone. So it's really, really good to bounce off people and possible advisors, mentors, friends, where you can have these conversations.
And Gareth?
Yeah, fully agreed. I think what was really eye-opening, both on the evening and also the involvement of FinTech Wales, is just the sheer depth and breadth of fintech businesses that we have operating in Wales. And without FinTech Wales, I don't think that would necessarily come to light. I think now we've got a far better appreciation of what we have within Wales, but to echo what Andy and Rhys have said, I think there's still a great need to champion that and to shout the message across the UK, not least in bridging funding gaps, not least in bridging talent gaps, to hopefully bring back some fantastic talent to Wales that's perhaps been outside of Wales for a window of time.
Yeah, you've all mentioned FinTech Wales, which we all know here is a not-for-profit organisation set up last year under the direction of Richard Theo, who's the UK's envoy for FinTech for Wales. You're all members. Why are you members? Do you think it's important to be part of that organisation?
Yeah, completely. I think for me, if I was trying to express the essence of this, for me, it's trying to put back into the community, but then also draw from the community. Now, the older I get, the more I realise that it's not the technology is an output of giving people opportunities to develop and work together and collaborate on a customer problem of some sort. And within those themes, something like FinTech Wales, with that kind of interlink of public sector and private sector, that could be a really powerful force multiplier. So that's why we're really excited about it, Confused.
Yes, equally so. I think in terms of both contributing to the community and also drawing from it, I think what's been invaluable to us is, whilst we thought we may have a recognition of many of the things that are going on locally, the participation within FinTech Wales has opened our eyes up to other ventures, to other activity, whether that's private sector or public sector activity, that we wouldn't necessarily have been privy to without having that knowledge coming through. as well as potential collaboration as well. I think in terms of clearly the proposition is so much stronger if rather than thinking in a silo mentality, one can combine what certain businesses are doing to give the end customer a fantastic proposition. That becomes extremely powerful then.
Yeah, so we're a slightly newer business to Confused.com, obviously, 3 years in, and we've probably taken a bit more from the community in the best possible sense than giving back to it. And what do I mean by that is if you pay for a gym membership and you go once a month, you're probably not getting good value. But as a first-time CEO, there's a lot to learn, and by being part of that community as a member and an advisory panel board member, you're sat by people who are very experienced and have interest in businesses. Some of them become clients. We've become clients of others, and it just fuels everything. And it all starts with people. I still believe true competitive advantage comes from people, but you need to work back from that. And being part of this community, or actually not being part of this community, does more harm than good. And there are a few other initiatives out there, but we were quite selective in choosing this one.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think now really it's great to have one recognised body, and if you're in the fintech sector, really need to be part of it because there's a saying, "Together we are stronger," and it's important to have that voice piece. You mentioned earlier on, Rhys, about getting others to say and shout about it. Well, FinTech Awards is one way, FinTech Wales is the other, where you can do that not just in Wales, in the UK, in Europe, but further afield as well.
Absolutely.
So that we're on we're on that scale of areas to go to, not just London, but there's Bristol, then Cardiff, and so forth. So which is good. Would you say, that what are the key things really for maybe having a business in Wales? You started businesses in Wales recently, Gareth. You're in an established business. What does Wales have to offer?
That's a really good question. I think Wales, we kind of fly under the radar a little bit. I think we've got incredible talent and we're doing incredible things, which is coming through the conversations like these. And we're quite hungry, I think, as a talent base. So you've got the kind of people side of things and the motivation and the drive to kind of succeed. Maybe a little bit too humble, maybe a little bit too quiet about things, perhaps. But then we can change that. Then you think about the quality of life and the cost of living in Wales is it's very, very attractive. It's a beautiful country to live in. We've got a great culture, and so the talent is there, and we have got a good pipeline of talent from the from Cardiff Uni, the National Software Academy, that kind of thing. So I think we're probably hitting maybe a bit of a tipping point in actually realising that we are a bit of a force to be reckoned with, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it ticks a number of boxes. If you're starting a business or want to relocate to Wales, the operational costs are generally lower than other major cities in the UK. The way of life here, you got an hour to the coast, Gower, Pembrokeshire, commonly noted as some of those beautiful parts of the world. And the talent, over the last 10, 15 years, I've seen access to talent improve immeasurably. So it does tick all the boxes for me. Infrastructure remains to be a challenge. Certainly on the roads, the lovely Bringas tunnels, something has to be done with that. The trains are improving, so I'd say infrastructure needs a bit of work. But there's a reason some of these bigger businesses have relocated to Wales over the last 12 months. Your Deloitte's, your Metrobanks, your Starlings, some really exciting businesses coming to Wales and realising there's a lot of boxes to be ticked.
Yeah, completely agree with what's been said already, both in terms of talent and infrastructure. I think where Wales has a really enviable position is that potential collaboration between private sector, public sector, governmental bodies, academia and the like. I think that virtuous ecosystem that we could have here is tremendously powerful and really the envy of many other parts of not only the UK but elsewhere as well. So I think if that's something that we can get right, that could be a real virtue for the Welsh economy. Just picking up on Rhys's point on infrastructure, I think there's a lot to be envied from the infrastructure. One of the challenges that we've had, though, has been in terms of securing office presence. I think it lends itself really well to maybe companies within the startup space and then the more established companies. But in terms of that middle ground, the scale-ups, it's obviously a pivotal consideration for growing the business to have the space, to have the data connectivity as well. And it's a space that I think lends itself to being looked at quite further, given it could be something that holds back the economy.
That's a really good point, actually. And as we've grown in headcount, we found ourselves looking for additional space and been very underwhelmed as to what's available. It's either too big with too high rates, or it's too small. And it's not much choice there, is it? There's not much commercial space available that ticks the boxes.
And it can be a tremendous barrier, obviously stating the obvious, and clearly fantastic to promote aspects like flexible working and remote working, but that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So to have that space and connectivity is essential for a technology business, or we will inevitably fall behind our peers within the UK.
You mentioned obviously a challenge of space for employment. What other sort of challenges are you finding? Because we've got a startup with Reese, a scale up with yourself, and I suppose confuses the grown up in the room, isn't it? What challenges are you finding and facing at the moment?
So I think so we talk about talent. So the talent is definitely there, but the demand is huge. So it's definitely a seller's market in terms of talent. If you're a well-rounded or motivated technology person, the kind of world's your oyster, if you like. And trying to compete within a small pond or small pool of talents can be challenging on times. And I think that we may do well to look beyond our kind of economic policy. You look at, say, someone like Romania that run these great incentives for technology firms to operate, whether it's tax breaks or, large-scale funding and investments into things like infrastructure and talent pools, that kind of thing. There's probably something we could learn from. And the beauty of Wales, perhaps, is that we're quite a small country, right? So it's kind of probably within our gift to enact that. So it'd be interesting to sort of see those kind of conversations between public and private to see, is there a way forward that we can actually innovate at that kind of economy scale? It could open more doors and trigger more innovation.
Yeah, I think we've covered off a lot of it from a commercial standpoint. Because of our size, we've been pretty fortunate to attract technology staff. But as Andrew's already alluded, you're really fishing in a very competitive pond there, so you have to think about other benefits. Is the commercial staff that we've really struggled with to attract commercial staff of same caliber as to maybe the technology staff that we have that matches the culture of the business, them understanding the product and the market well enough. I'd say they're the main challenges for us at the moment anyway.
Yes, totally. In terms of the talent pool, I suppose another key consideration for us, and I think as Delio being a tech provider to the investment industry, we've been fortunate to have a number of connectivities with venture capital firms or private equity firms. But when I do look at the landscape for a small business looking to grow in Wales, I think there's still a great deal more that can be done in the funding space to attract, whether it's institutional money or private money, and just getting that visibility on what the potential out there, both ways, I suppose, both in the eyes of the investor, but equally as the eyes of the company. I think the time taken to raise money is disproportionate on occasion, and I think that then does detract away from growing the company when it's such a challenge to attract the funding.
That's a really good point, and it's making businesses investable. Are you ready for investment? There's a whole amount of work going into raising funds from not just your pretty pitch deck. It's about talking to the right funders. Is it a family type fund? Is it a VC fund, a private equity fund? You're better off selecting 5 or 10 to talk to as opposed to 90 and then whittling down. If you're trying to raise a seed fund, that could be $250,000. You could spend 6 months raising that, which is totally disproportionate. And in that timeline, your business could run out of cash. So it's a really difficult one, and I'd say that's the weakest point of the technology startup community in Wales is securing and having signposting to the funding and making sure our businesses are investable and ready to receive investment.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we talked about here about strategy going forward. I mean, so how do you align your strategy with within the teams? Because some of you have smaller teams. Andrew, a much bigger company that's also global. So how do you align that strategy?
So if I was going to try to elevator pitch the technology strategy at Confused, I guess there's 3 themes. We're constantly reinventing the role of technology. So how we're going to use technology for the business and the customer. So, whether you're looking at making decisions on languages, frameworks and hosting, all that kind of thing. Then there's how we deliver the technology. So is that agile? Is that DevOps? Is it waterfall? Something a bit more formal, a bit more kind of slightly looser to allow people the chance to breathe and experiment. And then finally, it's how do we future-proof and make sure that we're paying off technical debt and basically making sure the foundation is secure and safe. So that's the tech strategy in a nutshell, those three kind of aspects. In terms of aligning then to the business orientated and customer orientated strategy, it's basically we're a very tight team at the senior level in terms of marketing, product, people, commercial and planning. So we're constantly discussing the roadmaps that we're going to, settle upon that we think is the right strategy for the business. And it's all about communication. Just keep communicate, repeat. And then we track against that in a fairly lightweight approach in terms of how we enact it. But that constant feedback loop is key to make sure that we're not drifting, or that we may want to drift into a new opportunity perhaps sometimes. So it's that constant sense checking and communication.
Yeah, it's a good question, and you could discuss this for hours, couldn't you? So
you have 4 minutes.
Yeah, fine. I will take those. So offices in Cardiff and London. I tend not to look too much further than 12 months. I just don't think how you can, especially for a newer business. We have a general idea where we want to be in 3 years' time. But you really need to understand what's going on in the market, so you can work out your strategies of how you can pick your angle, pick your sweet spot, and then work back from it. We've done that, which is why we're in a slightly different position now, where we need to evolve, but also serve our clients. So it's the balance between innovation and stability. So from a business perspective, I look at things, or we look at things as a very basic pyramid. On a quarterly basis, we'll set our corporate objectives that roll down into departmental objectives and then align to individual objectives. Not too formal of how we measure those. Then we run quarterly business reviews with the entire business. We'll send out a monthly newsletter. We'll have bi-weekly management team meetings that we can see if we're on track or off track. And we use technology massively there. So we've developed our own proprietary software to track performance versus objectives. So every 2 weeks, our management team will receive cards digitally to score based on our objectives from very basic assessment sets. And that uses pretty cool algorithms underneath to score our success. And whether I can take one look at it, or we can, to see if we're off track, and then just zone into the bit that needs to be done. It's about communication. It really is. And we have the benefits of being smaller, so we can just pick up the phone or go and see someone. But it's just being really clear what the strategy is, sticking to it, allowing capacity for it. So 80% of our time needs to be focused on objectives, allowing 20% BAU. And all of these things are measured. But there's a fine line between that and paralysis by analysis. And you can see the numbers coming through, how you manage your P&Ls versus product lines, how you align your teams, your organizational structures. All of that goes into the mix. And I find that bit fascinating. And that's the bit, linking back to FinTech Wales, that I often talk to fellow CEOs about, is how they manage their business, how they keep track of financial performances. Having been a CTO is so different being a CEO, where the CTO strategy is massive as it is, but linking that to marketing strategies, product strategies, commercial strategies is so exciting. And I just find it really interesting how different CEOs run their business. But that's how we tend to do it, and it works pretty well for us at the moment.
Very similar points on communication. A challenge that we have had, or a consideration we have had, is we've grown globally with putting new offices in Singapore, in Dubai, in Switzerland, and making sure everybody has the visibility on what that strategy is. And exactly as Rhys says, keeping honest to executing against the milestones, given I think if one becomes too theoretical about it, one takes their eye off the day job, and that things still need to happen properly. In the sense of growing the business, clearly delegation is essential. As I touched on earlier, we've pretty much doubled our headcount, and we've brought on board some fantastic talent, whereby initially there's obviously a learning curve, but then you obviously have to empower and to have confidence in those people that they're fulfilling against what your expectations are of them. I think ourselves, as well as a B2B technology provider, one of our main USPs is agility and is speed. So whilst we obviously want to have a sensible amount of process and procedure and governance, we of course need to keep honest to what got us here in the first place, is moving quickly and moving potentially faster than some of the incumbents are in that space as well.
Okay. So where do you want to see your businesses in the next sort of 12 months? Because they're all at different stages.
So we have operations across Europe and Asia, and I want to see those continue to flourish. We're working on some very exciting innovations in terms of business model and tech stacks, and I'd like to see them gaining traction and out there, pushing the company forward, developing our people and helping more and more customers. That's my wish.
Thanks for that, Andrew.
So we have multiple product lines within Credas. We have over 500 clients within our identity verification, anti-money laundering side. The product is very much shaped by legislation, which means we future-proof our clients. So I want us to continue to add value and protect our clients by simple adoption of technologies. We've launched our supply chain assurance platform within the construction sector. That's had huge early success. And again, that's linked to legislation and de-risking our clients. So I'd like to see several more products launched within the next 12 months and to continue on the journey as we are by running a pretty tight ship and commercially successful.
Very similar in terms of global traction. I think we've had a very strong foothold in Europe to date. We're thankfully getting a really good traction in some of the more international markets coming through. So it's to take advantage of those opportunities, deepening and broadening the product set as well, in terms of offering ancillary services in addition to what we do at this moment in time. And probably the third one is in relation to the team. As I say, we're a very evolving team at this moment in time. Fantastic talent has been brought in to supplement the fantastic talent that we have. And it's really keeping on seeing that team grow, but also retaining some of the culture that took us to where we have to this point in time as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm sure we've all really enjoyed that. And we look forward to the launch of the 2020 FinTech Awards. And I'm sure, well, Andrew and yourselves maybe can't enter that category this year, but obviously they'll be open for everybody else. So thank you for listening to the FinTech Podcast with Business News Wales and myself, Matthew Hyde from Recruit 1-to-1.